Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Midweek program at the J.C. Raulston Arboretum. My name is Blake, and I'm the Education Assistant here at the Arboretum. And today we are out at our education yurt because we've got some education that we would like to give to you, specifically about tool maintenance. This is a very important task, one that we often take for granted, and it's one that we ought not take for granted. So today we've got our Director of Horticulture, Paige, who's going to show you some of his tools and how to take care of them and all that good stuff. And it will be a wonderful program. And with the announcements out of the way, I think we can pass things over to Greg to teach us a little something about tool maintenance.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We tried to mix it up and go to different spaces. I get kind of in a rut, and I like my certain spots on the garden, and this is a special one. A lot of important stuff happens back here, and have a lot of things set up here. So the task today is to talk about tool maintenance. And to get to the maintenance part of tools, I want to talk about some of the different types of tools that we have and that we use for our garden. One of the quickest ways to really abuse or really mess up your tool is to use it for the wrong thing. So if you've got a whole lot of things in your quiver, you can use the right tool for the right thing. That's going to make all of your tools last much longer. So kind of the lay of the land today, I want to talk about some of the tools. We'll talk about maintenance of them, and I'm going to wrap things up with our hand pruners, which are one of our most crucial garden tools, and just some tips on how to keep them clean, how to sharpen them, and make that expensive investment last for a long time. So what I have here, stacked very neatly and securely, and I want to take a picture of this before I break it down today because it's kind of cool looking. I've got some different types of shovels, some spades, and I brought some rakes because everybody's favorite time of the year is coming up when we start raking leaves in our yard, and I'm a big advocate of raking leaves as opposed to blowing them around with gas-powered blowers. You're not going to get a lot of emissions polluting the air with a rake, and it's a really good workout. So I want to talk about those and how to keep rakes healthy and happy. But let's start with the spades that I have here, and I've got a couple of different things. This is a pretty typical garden spade. It's got a square point, it's got a D handle, and kind of reinforcements at the base of it for you to step on. This is, these come in every shape and size. This is a pretty standard size. And for most of what I'm going to talk about today, you definitely get what you pay for when you get tools. If you want something to last for a long time, you're going to pay a little bit more for it. This is on the cheaper end of tools. You can get these at pretty much any big box store. It's got a fiberglass handle. It's got a stamped metal base, and what this is basically is just a flat piece of probably not the strongest or the best steel, and it's stamped into the shape of the spade, which makes it, it's not going to last quite as long as something more expensive. It's going to be more prone to bending. So this spade is something you want to use for general kind of gardening tasks. It's good for edging the edges of your beds, but you don't want to pry out dead plants, stones, or things like that, because this guy is going to be prone to bending. Also, spades are good for transplanting things, and this one with that thinner metal is going to be harder to move heavier things. So the next one up is, this is called the transplant spade. It's got the same kind of D handle. It's actually got a place on the top of the spade where you can put pads, so if you're digging a lot of plants by hand, and professional nurserymen that do that for a living with balled and burlap things will typically use something like this for that. It's got a solid metal handle, so it's got some heft to it, so you can use that when you're trying to dig through tree roots and transplant things. This is also a good tool if you're ripping things out of your yard. We were just talking about that a little bit ago, and this is what you want for that kind of a thing. So just kind of showing you a close-up of that and the base here. When I go through these, I'll show you how to sharpen these before I jump over to the hand tools here. A little bit different. Flatter. This one is not stamped. This is a solid piece of metal, and this is not going to bend or waver if you hit something hard or use it to pry up with. And just for sake of comparison, you can see the difference there, and even the thickness of those. This one already has a little bit of a bend in it where something was pried and it gave way just a little bit. Thank you for pointing that out. Next one I want to show is, this is called the transplant spade. It's a little bit different than it has a rounded base. These are also called, my English gardening friends call this a poaching spade, used to poach perennials out of your neighbors and your friend's garden. And it's got a long blade, a D handle, a little bit higher lift, and again, it's stamped, but it's a higher grade metal. So it's a little bit thicker, got a little bit more weight to it, and that's gonna slice through perennial roots pretty quickly. So again, having multiple tools in your quiver, this is a good one for moving perennials around. You're not gonna be all hunched over it. It's a little bit higher than the standard garden spade, and it's specifically designed for kind of moving perennials around. And finally, the Piste Resistance, and one of my favorite gardening tools is, this is a bigger version of that transplant spade. It's got a solid metal handle. I think this thing weighs 9 pounds, if I'm not mistaken. It's got a long blade. That's a solid metal digging shaft down here, digging blade, much thicker. It has room and a beveled edge so that you can keep that nice and sharp. You're not gonna wanna shave with this, but keeping that sharp is gonna slice through roots a little bit easier. This is a great plant to root out things in your garden that you don't want there. It's heavy, you've got leverage, it's tall, you can wail away at stuff with it, and you've got this big heavy handle for leverage to kind of lift things out and pry things out. This one came from A.M. Leonard. I've seen these at other kind of horticultural tool suppliers. This is a little bit pricey, but if you are an active gardener and you're moving things around and rooting things out, this is definitely something that you're going to need to have. And I think this thing got baptized today. One of our garden volunteer groups was using it to dig up some plants in one of the borders today. So that's kind of spades in a nutshell. And I'm going to switch over to some scoops. And these are good for mulch, for debris and different things. And again, you get what you pay for when you get tools. And one of the things that we try to think about when we purchase tools are the ergonomics. Do you have a good handle to hold on to things with? Are you going to get leverage? Is it good quality? A good solid wooden handle, or maybe a fiberglass one, or something that's going to last a while. The plastic ones are pretty easy to find. They're super lightweight. The Achilles heel of these is they break really, really easy. And this is just screwed to a wooden handle, and just, again, wrong tool for the right job. Lifting something that was a little bit too heavy, or even dropping this in the wintertime when it's colder. These just don't last that long, especially when in an environment like us where a lot of different people are using these and we're rotating through things quickly. You might be able to keep this alive longer in a home garden, but I like the metal ones a little bit better because they're gonna hold up longer. So this one's aluminum. It's got a longer handle, better for leverage. These are good for kind of cleaning up after you've mulched. They're good for loading leaves into trash cans or bags to compost. It's aluminum, so it's lightweight. The Achilles heel of aluminum, if you see at the base here, just from scrubbing that on the ground, it folds over a little bit, and over time, it's just going to continue to deteriorate. If you wanted to get really into keeping this thing maintained and snipping that off to keep it kind of flat, you could do that, but this is going to last longer than plastic, but the aluminum definitely has a shelf life. So just some different options there. Right tool for the right place, kind of a concept. And coming over to some digging shovels, I've got a couple of different options here. And again, you get what you pay for with all of these things. This is a kind of the lower end of the spectrum. It's got a wooden handle, and just again, that's a stamped metal shovel piece. That's not going to last long in the garden. It's really flimsy, really lightweight. but for digging, it's going to be okay for a little span of time. I would purchase something a little bit more expensive than this. It's going to last longer. They make these with metal core handles, so they last longer, and you use that weight when you're digging. But if you don't want to wield a heavy shovel, something like this fiberglass one is going to be a better option. You can get these things pretty much anywhere. The things that I like about this is this handle's pretty durable. I like the fact that it has this thing on the top that you could hang in your garage or your garden shed. It's another stamped metal head, but a little bit higher grade metal than some of the standard ones. And again, that's directly reflected in the price. You've got the foot pads there that are going to help you when you're driving that into the ground. A little bit lightweight, but that fiberglass handle is not going to give, it's not going to flex. It's going to be a kind of a better option. And this is going to be my segue into sharpening these. A good quality tool. This one's been around for a while. This is a sentimental favorite of a lot of us here because it's been well used, but not long for this world. We're probably going to end up replacing this at somewhere in the not too distant future. But this has been loved and used a lot, and the metal is just kind of worn away and it's starting to split up the center. If that were a forged metal, that probably wouldn't have happened, but these are what are usually available in the trade, unless you want to get a little bit more expensive. But taking care of your tools will help kind of avoid that, and keeping them sharp so that they don't get thin and end up folding up like that. So I want to show you, and I'm going to do it on this spade here. This is the segment of the show where do as I say, not what I do. And if you were to go to my garage and see my tools, you would see that they're probably dirty like this. And we just don't have the time to clean these up after we use them every day here. So in a perfect world, it's good to get all that dirt off your shovel, hose it off when you're done, or take something like a brush and just try to get all that dirt off the shovel. What that does is that'll kind of oxidize, that'll keep moisture against that, and it's prone to getting rusty, and you don't want that to happen. So brushing them off at the end of the day is kind of a good thing. It's always a good rainy day job for us, but that's kind of the first step, is just to do that, just to get all that dirt and mud off of the tool. Paint scrapers work good. We've got this, I don't even know what this stuff is called, just scouring pads, which are also good for getting the crusts and the mud off. And once you've got that kind of clean, if you had a vise that you could secure this in and keep it steady, that's kind of the best option to do. But just getting a flat file that will knock the edges of that burr, just from digging in the soil, it folds over just a little bit. And keeping it sharp will make this last longer, and it'll be easier to use, and you're not going to be wrenching your back or other parts and pieces of you in the garden. So taking a flat shovel, and what you want to do is go across it so that you go across the entire edge. You don't want to focus on one spot. If you do that, it'll be uneven. So just going across the entire edge with that file and working that burr off. And I'll do it a couple times to show you, to kind of cover up the train. And you can kind of see it's getting a little bit shiny where it's getting that edge. And you want to hold it at an angle where you've got that lip already. And you just want to do that motion so you're kind of like, the way it was explained to me years ago is, think of that as like a stick of butter, and you're trying to get a thin sheet of that all the way off the edge with the same amount of pressure at the same angle. So that's it. Just do that enough until you kind of make that flat and even, and that's going to make the pressure on this when you're digging all be consistent along that entire edge. It's going to cut through roots better. It's going to be better and make it easier for you to use. Sometimes what I like to do with my shovels when I'm done cleaning them is clean them off with a little bit of oil. That'll help keep the dust kind of at bay and make them nice and shiny for kind of the next go around when you're going to use them. For wooden handled tools, Trying to keep this handle healthy and usable through the longevity of this tool is important for a couple reasons. You don't want this to get to the point that this one has where the handle's starting to degrade, it's rough, you're gonna get splinters in your hand. And something that's really good to do with wooden handle tools at least once a year is treat them with linseed oil. Linseed oil is natural, it's not toxic, and you can get it pretty much anywhere. It's readily available at most hardware stores and probably the big box stores as well. And just with a rag, the first thing you want to do is kind of take some sandpaper and smooth this out a little bit. That's going to make the oil more receptive to go into the handle. So just a couple of strokes with some sandpaper down the entire shaft of the handle. Get some linseed oil in a rag and just kind of rub that on there, kind of let it dry, and maybe do it 2 or 3 times. Once a year is good for any kind of wood handle tool. And it's something that not many people know about or do, but it'll make that last much, much longer than it would without it. Yes, so I brought this up mostly because of the state of the handle, but very much worth mentioning. Just a flat-headed metal shovel. They have lots of uses. They're good after you've cut an edge with something to kind of scoop that the grass and the weeds up. They're good for moving stone and gravel. This is definitely something that if you're going to be using it to move gravel and stone, get the longer handle. They make these with shorter handles, but you don't want to be lifting up something at a low angle. It's not gonna, take care of yourself is as important as taking care of your tools. But again, just like the round point shovels, this is stamped metal, and they make them where they're forged, where it's one solid piece, and it's going to last a little bit longer. These are pretty good stamped. Some of the brands that are out there last longer than others. And you can see this one, just from scraping on the ground, has gotten a little bit beveled. But this is one that really benefits from getting sharpened to kind of keep that as straight as you can over time. Another very useful tool for the garden, but mostly for heavier things like stone. You don't want to dig or plant a tree with this. I've seen people try to do that. It's just not made for that. This is made for scooping things, moving stone. It's great for sand. You can load mulch with this, but pitchforks are better, or the scoops that I showed beforehand. Good for loading dirt into wheelbarrows, especially if you're pulling it off of a hard surface. Thank you for reminding me. So rakes. A lot of these newer plastic ones have come out, and if you have a lot of leaves in your yard, I think these are great for that. This particular one is designed to, it doesn't get clogged up with leaves like some of the metal ones do. I think that's because it's kind of one continuous piece of plastic. The nice thing about these is they're big, so you get a lot of leaves in that motion when you're pulling. It's very, very lightweight. And this particular one has a foam handle, which is kind of nice. I've got one just like this at home. That's a little bit wider, and it makes very light work of a yard full of leaves. And it's also good for kind of pushing them around. Achilles heel, this is plastic. So in temperature extremes, that can get a little bit brittle. If you're raking leaves off your driveway or a hard surface, that plastic's going to wear down pretty quickly. But this being plastic, that definitely fits into the price point. This is a little bit less expensive than a metal rake, but this is something that you want to just keep on the grass. You don't want to rake it on concrete or a hard surface because you're just going to wear those tines and spines away relatively quickly. And our good standard leaf rake, this is one with a fiberglass handle. It's a little bit heavier than a wooden handle one, but the idea is this fiberglass handle is going to last longer. It's not going to need to be treated with linseed oil. You're not going to get splinters. It's going to be less likely to break. It also has a foam handle on the end of it, which is good when you're pulling a lot of rakes towards you. But this is a tool that, as they get used, the tines kind of bend, and you can spend time with a pair of pliers and straighten those out. It'll make them last a little bit longer, but it's the nature of the beast with this kind of rake. And when they're straight, it helps keep that tension on them a little bit longer. But this is a good standard rake for pretty much anything in the garden. I like the ones that have the springs in the top because they're less likely to break, and again, will last longer. All part of the price point. And last but not least, same. It's got the spring on the top, metal head, a wooden handle that's been painted, so it's going to last a little bit longer, but the paint's starting to come off. You can use these for anything. I have taken these rakes, and when they start to get really bent and used up, and cut off the ones that start to go south and not do so well, and it makes a more narrow rake that's good for getting in between plants. You can buy them that are like this, but with a little ingenuity, some tin snips and a hacksaw, you can kind of customize and make your own kind of short rake. And I've done that with rakes that are starting to bend and get misused and abused, but they do make them smaller that are really good for getting in between perennials and annuals and things like that, but invaluable in your tool shed for sure. All right, so that's enough of the big tools. I'm gonna shift over to hand pruners, because we probably get more questions about this than anything. And we've got two camps here. We've got Felcos and we've got the Okatsunis. The Okatsuni is a great tool from Japan, and I really like this, but my favorite and my go-to, and the one I'm going to focus on today, are the Felcos. And the thing that I like about the Felcos is everything on here is replaceable. Every screw, the spring, this locking mechanism, the blade itself, you can buy new blades if you don't want to mess with that and sharpen it, or if it gets too dirty and you don't want to clean it. All that stuff is replaceable. They come, when you buy them, with this tool, and this tool is made to fit all the screws and mechanisms on here. It's got a cutout for this nut right here. It's got a screwdriver slot to loosen this up. And it's got this mechanism here to turn this tension dial. So everything you need to undo this is right here into this little tool. Don't use these to get this stuff loose, because you're gonna bend and scar those nuts and the metal parts and pieces, and will destroy that. You want this part to stay healthy so that you can use that for the life of the tool. So I'm gonna take this apart and show you how easy it is. I am prone to drop things, so something to put the parts and pieces in is kind of important. And taking them apart makes them a lot easier to clean. So just with taking that off, the whole mechanism comes loose. So there's the blade, and just from using these in the garden, you can see all the grit and the sap that has deposited on there. One way to kind of clean that off, you can also use this for that, is just to kind of score it off, and a lot of it will come off that way. A putty knife is really, really good and easy. You can use the blade from a box cutter. Just don't cut yourself, or a scraper works really, really good. And I even like to use kind of a low grit sandpaper. You don't want to shave any of the metal off. You just want to get that scored sap and grime off that blade, so that when you use it the next time, it's going to be smooth when you cut with it. So you get the kind of general idea. You can see it coming off pretty easily. If they're really nasty, you can soak them in WD-40 so that it kind of works in, and it'll help get it off a little bit quicker. So the next thing you want to do is look at the blade part, and just from pruning, that metal has started to fold over, that edge a little bit. And the same concept with that flat file. You can get a sharpening stone. Corona makes this tool that has that stone built into it so that you could just run that along the edge. And again, just like you're shaving off a layer of that. But I like to use the stone to do that. And again, if you had a vise, something to hold on to that, it's going to free your hands up. But just go across it like you're trying to shave off just a very thin layer, and equal surface tension along the entire thing. Don't focus on one area, you'll wear it down all the way across the blade in one motion. And if you're ever here and want us to help you with this, stop by. We do that quite a bit with our volunteers. But something that simple, instead of replacing that, gives that a little bit more of a sharp, kind of defined edge. Be sure the stone you use is more on the fine side. This one here is really, really rough, and you would use that on bigger blades. It's going to take away more of the metal. You want something that's a little bit finer. It's also helpful on the stone to get some honing oil. That makes that, that motion a little less static and helps sharpen it a little bit quicker. And all of this stuff you can find at any hardware store. So crucial components: the low grit sandpaper to get the sap off, sharpening stone with a little bit of honing oil, and you're kind of good to go. So while these guys are apart, just clean off the old grease and dirt that's in all these little crevices. And this fulcrum end, it's kind of dirty from sap also. And that's just going to make that cutting surface more even and make it easier to prune stuff. Pretty simple, pretty easy. So putting them back together is the fun part. I do the blade first, and it's pretty self-explanatory. You've got these 3 divots here that hold the blade in place. So the blade's in place. You're going to put your screw back up through. While you've got these apart, a little bit of grease in here is going to go a long way. We were just talking earlier about using WD-40. WD-40 attracts dust and keeps the grime in there, and it doesn't hold up as a lubricant. So I've got a grease gun. If you get some lithium grease, a little tube from the hardware store, that's going to last a long time. I just got a deep dark secret from Blake that said bicycle grease, which that's ingenious. That's a grease that doesn't attract dust and is going to last for a long time. So while they're apart, it's good to kind of do that so that this stays nice and lubricated and free of rust and other bad things. So put the set screw back on. This guy is next, which locks that set screw. Put the spring in. So you've got that tension, and you want to kind of twist them to see if there's room to wiggle, and if there is, you need to tighten this a little bit more. And again, here's where this guy comes into place. It fits on, and just turn it. And you want to turn it till when you close it, you can feel a little bit of catch. So that's good. I'm going to set this piece in, which keeps it in place. And again, using the tool that they gave you so you don't mess up the threads on the screw or the head. And that's it. They're good for another couple months of heavy duty pruning. Now, I wanted to mention that with these, because a lot of people use these as well, the same kind of concept applies. You can take them apart, you can grease the inside, you can take your sharpening stone and sharpen that edge. You can clean off the scoring carbon stuff and plant sap relatively easy with sandpaper. Just as important to do it with these as with the Felcos. We had a big discussion about these yesterday. I think this metal is a little bit higher grade than the Swiss-made Felcos. This is a good high-grade metal, but these hold up for a really long time and don't need as much maintenance as the Felcos. But I'm partial to these because you can replace all the parts and pieces. Same thing applies with your big loppers. It's just the same thing in a bigger package. You can take them apart. You can clean them off with the sandpaper. Same thing with the sharpening stone. Same thing all around, and important to keep these healthy as well. So that's the Reader's Digest version of taking care of your garden tools. Does anybody have any questions?
There were a couple of questions. Kathy asked, how do you sharpen one of the shovels with the rounded edge on it? Would it be about the same?
I've seen people take grinders to these, and that kind of scares me because this metal isn't really made for that heating up. But if you had somebody to hold on to this or could put this in a vise to secure it, you can do the same thing with the file. You know, just going down to the point and then doing the other side the same way. But the key is that one solid motion. You don't want to focus on one area. You want it to be all the way down to the edge. That's the best way to do it. If you've got a vise where you can hold that nice and steady, and with two hands, you can get more pressure on that blade. That's the best way to do that.
Yeah, okay. And Jane just asked a really important question. She asked, are Dremels useful for this or too harsh?
I think they're too harsh, especially for pruners. You're gonna heat that up too much, and there's no level of forgiveness with a mechanical tool. When you're doing this by hand, it's your pressure that you're putting on it. And always start out, less is always more. You can't ever take back the metal or the gouge that you put into something. I've done that where I've ruined them by focusing too much on an area, or I've cut something with a pair and it rolls over so far and so deep that it's just not salvageable. And that's the nice thing about Felcos, is if you do that, you can replace that whole blade. But I steer people away from mechanical tools, sanders and grinders and Dremels and things like that, or the wheels that you could go up to on a mechanical grinder. You just don't want to do that on hand tools, and all the stuff that flies in all directions that could go in your face as well.
For sure. And if I can share a personal preference of my own, if I have to choose between a sharpening stone that I'm holding in a hand and doing like this versus one that's just on a bench, it's solid, it's flat, just there, and you just run it across it, I'd choose the one that's on a bench and solid every time, because
it's much easier.
Yeah, and there's just too much movement.
There is
something in your hand. And like with the Dremel tool specifically, like the moment you put it to the edge, you're going to stay in one spot too long on accident.
Or you look away at the television.
Exactly. Yeah. Like it's going to be really difficult to make sure that it's constant and consistent.
Drastic things will happen. That's probably the most important thing with this, is if you have some kind of a station where you can do this, and they make these on bigger bases that you could sit on a table and do it that way. Trying to hold it and move it, it's not going to be as precise as something that's going to be on kind of a base. That's the best way to do it, in my opinion.
Yeah. Also, I purchased a handheld sharpening stone from Okatsune.
Yeah.
Their specific one,
yes.
and I've used it very much. Yeah, and I notice when I use it as a handheld one, you get like a divot in the sharpening stone over time. Like it's no longer flat, and you can no longer maintain that flat edge of it, which is again another reason why I like the ones that just sit on a table, because there's a lot easier to keep flush the whole time.
Yeah. And Felco makes one as well. I have one, but I could not find it. And it's a 3-sided one so that you can use one side. And in theory, you do a pass, you flip it, and just keep doing that. And it's going to make it last a little bit longer. But all that stuff can be found online.
Yeah. And one advantage to the Felco is I think that their instructions might actually be in English. So
there you go. There you go.
Although the Japanese make lovely pictures, and if you can follow pictograms, it is informative. Okie dokie. So Penelope's asking, what about spading forks? How might you maintain one of those?
I almost forgot. If this is what she's talking about, a spading fork, and you can see on this one, it's a little wonky. These are really, really good tools, very, very high quality. Most of these the good ones are made in England. This wooden D handle, if you take care of this thing, it'll outlive you. Heavy metal, this is not stamped, this is forged, so it's all one piece of a high grade metal. Unfortunately, just like anything, it went beyond its limits, and in our nice clay or rock grabbed it and just bent that fork kind of out of place. This is where having a vise would be crucial. I would lock this thing in a vise and bend that fork back to where it needs to be. I wouldn't heat this thing up and do that. I would just really gently lock it in a vise and bend it back so that it's straight or straighter than that and kind of in line with its partners. If you're getting to the point where this is happening, it's time to use another tool, something heavier duty, like the big transplant spade that I mentioned with that metal, that 9-pound handle. That's going to be good for rooting things out. But these are great for popping out perennials. They're great for turning the soil. They're great for compost. And it's just you feel good holding one of these tools in your hand because it's just so well built. And I hate that this happens, but it's, that's a small piece of metal and it's going to happen. But it's an easy thing to pull back into place.
Okay. And Matt here has just put a wonderful comment. Thank you so much for putting this, but he says, recommend that people wear gloves and eye protection. Yes, and I will, when I edit this video, I'll make sure we put a thing up at the front because that is very important.
It is, and I should have had glasses with me, and I brought gloves, but I got into it and just went. But very, very important. You don't want those metal filings in your hand. You certainly don't want them in your eyes, and that's one of the benefits of doing this by hand in small motions is you're not pulling a lot off, but very important to have glasses on. Thank you, Matt.
Yes, thank you, Matt. And also, you mentioned that I gave you a little secret about bicycle grease earlier. I got that secret from Bryce Lane from his classes that we offer here at the Arboretum. He is absolutely full of wonderful information of that sort. So if you've never taken a class with Bryce, go to our event calendar and look for them. They are absolutely wonderful.
Credit where credit's due.
Yes, for sure. Okie dokie, another question. Oh, yes. Linda says, I periodically run small garden tools through the dishwasher to clean and sanitize. Is this a bad thing to do?
I don't think I would do that. And there's a lot of debate about sanitizing tools, whether it's worth it or not. And a simple way to do that is when you're done using them with just a mixture of alcohol and water, is to spray them off. If these are in a dishwasher through the entire cycle, that heat and all that water and those detergents, that's not going to be good for the longevity of these. I would not do that. It's going to make the handle, the glue that holds these handles on, kind of come loose. The same with the Okatsunis. I wouldn't do that. I would clean them off like we talked about. If you're gonna sanitize them, spray them off with an alcohol solution. And once you spray them off, let it sit for 30 seconds or a minute, and then dry them off because you don't want that mixture to be on the metal for a really long period of time.
Okie dokie. So Catherine says that her father always had a big pail filled with sand and oil to use for a
Yes.
shovel.
Yep. I worked at a garden where we did that. And in theory, we walked into the tool room, there was the bucket of sand, and we were supposed to do that. And it would last for a couple weeks in the heat of the garden season, and people would quit doing that. But that's a really good tip, and something I would recommend. That's going to knock the dirt and the sap off of things, and that little bit of oil is going to coat the blade and keep it from getting kind of rusty and corroding. And I think that's a really, really good idea, and something that's simple and easy to do.
Okie dokie. Carol says, after using tools, I usually hose them off and let them air dry outside. Is this a good idea?
That's what I recommend too, is after you use them for the day, just squirt them off with high pressure hose. And that's going to knock off a lot of the mud, a lot of the debris. Put them in the sun, let them dry out, flip them over so the backside gets dry. And then if you want to coat them with a little bit of oil, that's not a bad thing to do. And that's something that you can do weekly or bi-weekly. If you're heavy into the garden season, you're going to use them the next day. It doesn't make a lot of sense to oil them up. But cleaning them off, that's going to keep them from getting, and you can see on this one in particular, my house of cards is going to fall here. All these little pits are from rust, and that's just where moisture has sat on that blade for a long time. And that's the benefit of getting that mud and dirt and debris off, is it'll eliminate that from oxidizing and starting to corrode that metal.
Alrighty. Well, that looks like that is all the questions we have in the chat.
That was a lot of talking on my part.
No kidding. Well, you did a great job.
Thank you for staying with us.
Thank you, Greg, for pulling all this together and going through all of it, not just the sharpeners, but the shovels and everything. It was absolutely wonderful. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We appreciate you tuning in with us. We will be back next week, next Wednesday at 3 o'clock. We will be going deeper in the garden with Tim. He will be talking about grassy plants. And so that will not just grasses, but also sedges and rushes. So
all the good ones.
All the good ones. So make sure you join us for that. We will see you all next week. Y'all take care.
I left a piece out.
Oopsies. It's okay. No one will know.
I hope not.